Hello, students. You're welcome to today's lesson. Today, we will be looking at another interesting topic aspect of environmental interaction. In our previous lesson, we discussed about the desert vegetation and the types. We also looked at the factors affecting its distribution and the economic values of the desert vegetation. So, at this lesson, we're looking at various objectives. One, we should be able to define ecosystem. Also, we'll be looking at the components of the ecosystem, what makes up the ecosystem. Also, we'll be looking at the types of the ecosystem. What are the different types of ecosystem that we have? Also, at this lesson, we'll be looking at the flow of energy through the food web and the food chain. We are also going to be looking at how matter is distributed through the water cycle. Thereafter, we'll be looking at the carbon cycle, how matter is being distributed through the carbon cycle. Also, we'll be looking at the nutrient cycle. All these are what we are going to be looking at this lesson. Now, the question is, what is an environment? Environment is the total surrounding or medium of any organism in a given area. This includes the physical surrounding, climatic factors, and other living organisms in that surrounding. The environment is made up of different spheres. We have the atmosphere, the biosphere, the lithosphere, and the atmosphere. Looking at the ecosystem is an area containing a community of living things interacting with one another and with their physical environment through the exchange of energy and matter. We can say that the ecosystem is the relationship between organisms and its physical environment. The living things include plants, animals, and microorganisms, while the physical environment refers to the habitat. Both the living components and non-living components in nature exist and interact in a manner that is similar to that of an interacting system. Hence, we refer to it as an ecosystem. Now, the study of ecosystem is also known as ecology, and ecology is a branch of biology. Every ecosystem is composed of two main parts. These are the physical environment and the biological environment. The physical environment consists of the inorganic substances such as water, rocks, gases, soil, and all mineral components. And they are also known as the abiotic components of the environment. The ecosystem is a model or replica of the biosphere. Next, we'll be looking at the biotic components of the environment. Looking at the biotic components of the ecosystem, these include the living things such as plants, animals, and microorganisms. Next, we'll be looking at the types of ecosystem. Ecosystems are broadly divided into two. We have the dryland ecosystem, which is also known as terrestrial ecosystem, and systems in water bodies. Now, ecosystems in water bodies are also referred to as aquatic ecosystems. There are several types of land ecosystem within a country, and this actually differs depending on the country or continent. Land ecosystem are actually ecosystem where we can find those carnivorous and herbivorous animals. These ecosystems vary in sizes and from place to place. Then we also have the aquatic. Most of these land ecosystems are found within the forest regions where we have these living organisms. Looking at how ecosystem function, we'll be taking also the flow of energy through the food chain and food web. The flow of energy actually shows the interdependence between the biotic and abiotic components of the ecosystem. The sun, like we know, is the main source of energy, and from it, all other energy are derived. Now, it is only green plants who can make use of this energy to produce food, while others depend on the produced food. Green plants, in the presence of sunlight, chlorophyll, carbon dioxide, they produce their own food. This is done by converting the radiant energy to chemical energy, and this process is known as photosynthesis. Now, animals which cannot produce, they actually depend on these green plants. These green plants are known as primary producers, while those that cannot produce and feed on the plant directly are known as consumers. We have three types of consumers: the herbivorous, such as sheep and cattle, they feed on green plants, like lion and wolves feeds on the herbivores, and the omnivores, like man, which feeds on plants and animals. Now, the flow of energy is when energy passes from plants to the animals, and from that primary consumer to the herbivores, and from the herbivores we also have to the carnivores. While the food chain describes the consumption of one organism by another organism in succession. Energy flow in nature through assimilation of energy by organisms of each stage. This energy is returned to the environment in the form of feces and other excretory products. Energy had returned through decay of parts of the organisms, and that also is transformed or returned through the environment by respiration. While the cycling of matter is the continual flow of water and chemical elements from the physical environment into living things and back to the physical environment. The continuous use and reuse of materials also shows the link and interdependence of the biotic and the abiotic in the environment. Looking at the water cycle, it reveals the continuous interchange of water between the atmosphere, the sea and the land, and the air masses that carries water vapor in the atmosphere where condensation takes place. Remember, we said the primary producers are the green plants, while the consumers are herbivorous animals that depends on plants directly. Of course, the carnivorous are animals that feeds on the herbivorous animals. These carnivorous, they feed on herbivores, while the omnivorous feeds on both plants and animals. Next, we have the decomposers. These are microorganisms that tend to act on the decayed plants and animals. Man depends on the food produced by both plants, and also they also depends on animals for food. With this, we see that the food chain is an important aspect that actually reveals the interdependence between the abiotic and biotic factors or components of the ecosystem. The carbon and nutrient cycle both are complex processes that tends to explain the cycling of matter in nature. The main sources of the chemical components are the atmosphere, which stores oxygen, carbon dioxide, and hydrogen, nitrogen, and rocks, which through chemical weathering also break down, tends to produce soils. Some of these chemical elements released soil may be due to loss of streams or rivers or groundwater through leaching by percolation and drainage water. Carbon cycle shows the continuous flow of carbon into the atmosphere as carbon dioxide, and it returns to the Earth's surface where it is absorbed and stored vegetation. With this, we have come to the end of the class. Please do well to ask your questions and attempt your quizzes. See you in my next class. Bye for now.